Frater BT's Esoterinerd podcast, in which I interview my old friend, Sal Santoro. But first,
the REAL Rosenkreuz Orden.
Today, for reasons which will come as no surprise to those of you who paid close attention to episode 45, and for the rest of you will become clear in an hour and 15 minutes, I will be reciting highlights from the Golden Dawn Requiem. In keeping with the spirit, I will perform this requiem for Ani. Supernal splendor, which dwellest in the light to which no man can approach, wherein is mystery and depth unthinkable, and awful silence, I beseech thee who art Shekinah and Elohim, to look down upon me in this ceremony, which I perform in thine honor, and to ask for the assistance of those who have passed through the veil. Grant thine aid unto the highest aspirations of my soul. In thy divine name, Yod Hevel Elohim, by which thou dost reveal thyself as the perfection of creation and the light of the world to come. I implore thee to grant unto me the presence of thine archangels of Kiel, thou Prince of spiritual initiation, through suffering and strife against evil, aid me, I beseech thee, to transcend the evil that is in me, so that I may be enabled to perform a higher and more divine work. O ye strong and mighty ones of the sphere of Shabbat, O ye I conjure ye by the mighty name of Yod Hevav Elohim, the divine ruler of your realm, and by the name of Gophiel, your archangel, aid me with your power in your office, to place a veil between me and all things belonging to the outer and lower world. Let it be a veil woven from that silent darkness which surrounds your abode of eternal rest, that in this chamber of the divine mystery I may hear nothing that comes not from on high, and see naught that may distract my vision from the ineffable glory of the supernal. Grant unto me, I beseech thee, the power of the Spirit to bring the brilliance of the eternal splendor to one who has now entered the invisible. Lift me, I beseech thee, lift me up so that I may be made a divine messenger, bearing the peace and harmony of the higher spirit to Ani, whose death to this flame we do now commemorate. Wherever Ani may now be, and on whatever plane he may now pursue his ideal, let him be blessed with a more divine rest and a utter cessation from strife. Term of all that liveth, whose name is death and inscrutable, be thou favorable unto us in thine hour, and unto him from whose mortal eyes the veil of physical light hath fallen, grant that there may be the accomplishment of his true will. Should Ani will to absorb into the infinite, or to be united with his chosen and preferred, or to be in contemplation, or to be at peace, or to achieve the labor and heroism of incarnation on this planet or another, or in any star, or aught else, unto Ani may there be granted the accomplishment of his true will. So let's get to the interview, shall we? Greetings, Frater. Welcome to the Esoterinerd podcast.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So this is Salvatore Santoro.
Yeah.
Or Sal Santoro.
Yeah.
Well, most people call him Sal.
Except in the community. Yeah, I have a whole...
Oh, in the community.
Yeah, I'm Sir Nick professionally.
Sir Nick. And which community is it?
It's the Los Angeles BDSM community.
Okay.
It's been like 30 years of my life.
BDSM. Now that's bondage...
Bondage and discipline, sadism, and masochism.
Okay. And now we were talking in the temple earlier about how that can be a form of healing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I go around and I teach classes all over the country, and I have been for years. And, you know, I started to realize early on that S&M, you know, a lot of people would connect it with physical sexuality.
Right.
And as we know, sexuality it's a small percentage of what it really is all about. It's about the mind. And like...
Yeah, there's plenty of other chakras.
Yeah, there's plenty of... yeah, exactly. And, you know, I started working with different systems from my background years ago in the minimal amount of years that I had in the Golden Dawn, as well as a lot of reading and a lot of groups that I moved on with through my life that were all kind of centered around the same stuff. Now, in BDSM, you've got the dominant and the submissive. And when most people go and they have their scenes, they try to take the submissive to what is most commonly called subspace. And about 10 years ago, I started looking at subspace and realizing that there was more to it than submissive space. A lot of people want to connect it. When you ask a dominant or a submissive, a lot of times you can ask them, what is subspace to you? And they'll tell you it's a place where you get tingly. It's a place where you get to just chill out and you go within yourself. And they'd explain these things, but they would always go back to some people saying, oh, it's where a submissive stands. Some people believe that. It's a place that they get this fuzzy feeling, and then the dominant gets to use different tools on them, and then they, in turn, will kind of coast out. Well, I started looking at that and realizing it really wasn't submissive space. It was subconscious space. And I started further studying and realizing that when you use equipment in S&M, like the floggers are a softer multi-tailed whip with about anywhere between 30 and 40 tails on it, and they are about 28 to 30 inches. When you use them, that's the first tool you use in a scene, and it creates the environment, and it allows the person to really just relax. It's not a painful tool. It's more of just something that it's like hypnotic almost. So I started developing what I call the metronome effect, which is essentially keeping time, and at the same time having the submissive or bottom in the scene breathe. And I started using the fourfold breath, and I would teach them that. And usually when a scene would start, prior to me flogging them, I would go up and I'd take my middle finger of my right hand and I put it at the base of their occipital bone. And then I take the middle finger of my left and I place it over their third eye. And I work in a clockwise motion. When I'm doing that, I'm having them do the 4-fold breath, bringing in through the nose, hold for 4, then exhale out the mouth, hold for 4, and repeat. And while I'm doing that, with my finger over the third eye, I'm cupping my hands so they're recirculating their breath. And allows them to just get into that space. Then I'll step back and I'll use the floggers and I'll start building a tempo. And over time, I started seeing more and more connections, how it can be used for things not just sexual. How when you take a person into subspace, they get to deal with things in their life that they may not want to talk to other people about. They will have recollections of things that they've repressed. They will bring up good times in their childhood or bad times or things that, maybe they need to deal with or they want to deal with. And all this comes from the beginnings of subspace. And in my classes, I will teach people that, we live in the conscious. Like most metaphysicians understand or occultists understand. The layman people really don't as much. But how we live in the conscious mind, and we eat and we sleep and we shit and we piss and we drink and go to our jobs every day. But when you step into the realms of the subconscious or the super conscious, where you're dealing with Akashic records on a world view, you're tapping into that, and you can change with vibration, on those levels. And it all just keys back into everything I learned in Golden Dawn. So that's kind of where I am at with my teaching, and it's starting to spread. People are wanting more of my classes now. And when I play with people or work with people that are submissive, things will come up. I when I first tripped across it, it was 1999 or 2000. And I had gone to a play party up in Oakland, California. And when I was at the party, everybody was kind of doing their scenes all night. We were all playing, but they also partook in spirits and enjoyed some alcohol or whatever they enjoyed. I've always been straight edge my whole life. Never done drugs or alcohol. And that's just the way it works for me. So by 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, everybody's either fucked out or passed out and doing their own little groove. And so I'm hanging out in this house, and there's a knock on the door by like 4:30, and there's this beautiful young lady that walks in. And she's like, I'm here for the play party. I heard about it. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm the only person up. Let's hang out. So we just started talking. And I'm like, do you want to play? And she's like, yeah. So we got our scene going. It was a pretty strong scene. I got her into her zone. And this is before I really started making the connection between the two where I'm at today. I started playing with her, and as I'm working with her with the floggers and getting her to breathe on her own, not putting that into it yet, she's breathing on her own, and she has this scene that lasts with me about an hour and a half. And by the end of the hour and a half, she comes down, and she's crying. Now, that happens a lot. It's releasing endorphins. It's not that I caused her pain, that I was hurting her, because I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding of how that works in BDSM, which I can explain later. But it wasn't a heavy scene on that level. It was emotional. Yeah. And more started coming out. So we sat down, and she had sub-drop, which is usually where the submissive comes out of it, and you're just hanging out together. And I was holding on to her, just talking, wasn't doing anything perverse. We were just kind of hanging out, and she was silent. And so finally, the tears would stop. So I got some water in her, and I gave her some chocolate, because you want to get the sugars back in the body, things like that. And she's like, I just realized something. And I'm like, well, what's wrong? She's like, my dad was molesting me as a child, and I didn't even remember that until you did all this. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, oh my God, did I touch you the wrong way? And she's like, no, it wasn't you touching me. It was going into my subconscious mind and bringing this up. And after she went through that experience that night, we stayed in touch. And over the years, she approached her father about that, and they got counseling, and now they're better.
Wow.
And that's when I realized that this serious. It's not about erections. It's not about cock and vagina. It's about the mind. It's about the subconscious and working with those levels. And when a dominant comes up and they're doing their scene, they are really like a catalyst. Okay, they generate energy with their tools. And to be a good dominant, you should almost be in like a monk state of mind. It's not about ego. It's not about nefesh. It's not about any of those things. It's about being so at one that you really are there to
like
take
being
this
the
person.
Iris.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And people outside the world, 50 Shades of Grey and all that crap that's out there, they don't realize that that's what it's about. So the idea of the dominant actually is the generator, and the submissive is actually the director. It's almost oxymoronic to some people, unless they really get what's going on. Because really, it's about the sub. And if it's not about the sub, then it's coercement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is super important. So generation and direction of energy is super, super important.
Yeah, come get initiated by me so I can feel better about my initiated powers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, the parallels. I mean, because in Golden Dawn, of course, you do get tied up. And you get a bag put over your head, and you're being led, and you don't know what's going on, and there's someone shouting at you, saying, "Fear is failure!" And it's a total mindfuck, because someone just scared the shit out of you. It's the first thing you've seen.
Oh, yeah.
And the words that he said were fear is failure. So you're like, what, I did not, huh? But then the cool thing is, like 4 years later, when you've dialed 6 digits of that girl's phone number and you're about to hang up and you think, no, fear is failure, and you dial the 7th digit and you get yourself into trouble.
Sure.
You know, peradventure there shall I find the light, right?
Exactly. So that's it. You know, that's what I'm trying to develop. I'm really trying to take
It's happening. I've heard enough buzz to realize that people's perceptions of the BDSM phenomenon and community are gradually shifting. I mean, like back in the 70s, even, you know, homosexuality was thought of as, oh yeah, those deviants, you know, and BDSM, you know, kind of stayed in that, you know, place of deviancy while homosexuality started to become more normal and accepted as part of society. And now it's finally time, okay, now that gay marriage is legal across the 50 states, let's look at some of these other things. There's these couples over here that have a third person or a fourth person.
Gender shifts.
Yeah. There's people shifting from one gender to the other.
Sure.
What's up with BDSM? And then they realize, well, I guess everybody goes to work and you know, gets humiliated by their boss and they have to just swallow it. So maybe it's cathartic to go somewhere where you can have an organized way to let all that steam out, to be in the role of the one humiliating the other one, or to be in the role of submissive.
Exactly. You know, and it really is all about that for me. And I'm really trying to develop almost a spirituality around it somehow. And I don't know where to go with it next. I mean, I've got enough background in all aspects, I think, of occultism.
It seems like there seems to be like a natural attraction between the various kinds of Satanists, people who self-identify as Satanists, and BDSM. I've noticed. I mean, just from I end up with, I can see who our friends are in common, and you know, and it's like friends suggest friends in common. Sal, oh, of course. So you know, and a lot of them have some very satanic imagery in their jewelry and in their tattoos and stuff like that. So it's interesting that the spirituality is already present. I was just talking to Janie about that this morning on the way to work, because we were listening to this heavy metal song, and you know, this like death metal kind of, and I was thinking about how that basically, I mean, maybe I'm oversimplifying, but it seems to me that there were some Christian parents that said, beware of the devil and hell.
Of course.
And what's hell like, Mommy? Well, they play horribly loud music, and it's clang, clang, and they talk like, oh, thanks, Mommy. I'm going to go down to the basement for a while. Yeah. And that's how heavy metal was born. And so you have all, you know, Baphomet, as we know, and as anybody who's looked into it knows. Yeah, it has all the elements in the Tree of Life, and all the element in the mystic symbol of Yeshua in the Rosecross Lawman are present in Baphomet. Yep. And it also includes the darkness. And, you know, so it's kind of, I mean, it's a little controversial in that sense, where some people, you know, who are Christian will say, well, God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. You know, they'll quote that scripture. But if you quote some Old Testament at them, and they're like, well, we prefer prefer the New Testament, you know.
Yeah.
But,
We prefer this one.
What about Job? You know, like,
I believe that's a super important thing to. I've been really would like to develop more work on. Is Baphomet. I mean, Baphomet is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love to me when I explain it to people how Baphomet's sitting in Malkuth, and the crown is Kether, and the microcosm opposing, and a lot of people don't see that. They
reconciling
just see,
all dualities in one symbol. Yeah.
The Caduceus wand, Mercury, everything's there.
Yeah.
The whole tree is there, and I was teaching that in a little. I did a ceremonial magic 101 class for a year and a half. That actually did pretty good. It was outside of S&M, but a lot of the SM community people that I knew came in.
Nice.
But it was really great stuff, and I worked a lot off of Craig's book because I loved him, and losing Michael Craig was hard.
Oh yeah,
he was a good friend.
Yeah.
I still talk to Holly though.
Oh, cool.
Holly's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, she was really developing, getting into the BDSM world. So we would talk about that. And
I really thought that was an interesting. They weren't his. Maybe he was borrowing the ideas from someone else, but there were a few points that he made in modern sex magic that just kind of blew my mind about the symbolism of the Ark of the Covenant. And, and it's I think it's the Puritans that made sex dirty. Maybe not only the Puritans, but that kind of ilk.
Yeah.
The people that say, separate the spirituality, and then anything else is porn over here. Where if you go to certain places in India, you have palaces that are made of statues of people in every different possible position. And if kids grow up seeing that, then when they're 12 years old and they're being naughty with their friend, they're going to be like, all right, should we do number 57 or number 18? As opposed to being like, do I put it in? Oh God, now you're pregnant.
I'll just use my shoulders.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's all sexual. When you look at the Tree of Life, Keter, Malkut, it's sexual. The two pillars, it's sexual. The middle pillar,
severity.
It's all sexual.
Ugh,
but that when you.
The lovers.
You kind of grow up with the old ladies saying, now, elevate your mind out of the gutter. Let's talk about spiritual things instead of... So but it ends up because they expect it to be dirty and obscene, then it relegates the talk of genitals to telling dirty jokes over a beer with your buddies.
Yeah.
And so it's a self-fulfilling thing where the things that are supposed to be profane end up seeming very profane, and the things that are supposed to be sacred are very sacred, or, cleaned on the surface but dirty underneath,
So I have some questions for you.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me, what are your thoughts on... Is it the Temple of Satan? The new group that's
I don't
up?
really keep up
Have
a
you
lot with it.
studied
I just have a peripheral news feed understanding. Just kind of like I'm.
You're in Pennsylvania. Look it.
I didn't even. Oh, right. They put up the statue and all that. I like them just based on my peripheral. Just what I know of them is that they got Baphomet put up as. Because if you're going to have the 10 Commandments, then we can have Baphomet, right?
Yeah, of course.
Otherwise you're a hypocrite. And so people are freaked out about that, and that's fun.
Yeah.
It's always fun freaking out uptight Christians.
Michigan.
And then the other thing they did was they had women that were pouring milk on themselves, and in order to protest. What were they protesting? Like poor practices in the dairy community?
Well, it had that, and then they also did something around that same time with this one girl was going in covertly into family planning places.
Oh, right.
And now they're talking about forcing them to...
That's right. They were defending Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
So, they were anti-protesting against the abortionists. So, I appreciate what they're doing. I don't know if they're doing anything ritually or anything,
Well, in my years,
so I have nothing to critique or comment on.
In my years with the satanic background, I have a pretty large background.
Now, is that LeVay or is that his daughter or?
It's none of them.
Okay.
They're not connected at all.
Lucius I know there's atheistic Satanism and then there's religious Satanism.
Yeah, the way I've always understood it, and like when I met Dr. LeVay years ago before he died. And first thing he told me was, never be a cynic and don't join the church. That's what he told me of Satan.
Right.
He's like, don't be a parrot. That's one of the first things he said to me. He was a carny. He was funny. He was a funny bastard, It was a really cool experience getting to know him. But the Church of Satan, COS, they don't anthropomorphize it. It's basically nihilism, I would say. It's nihilistic in theory. And that's the other thing is a lot of people are like, well, since, you know so much about this, what are their masses like? They really don't do a lot of, they have Walpurgisnacht, which is around winter solstice, sits in that time. But they don't really do...
Your own birthday is you're supposed to
Yeah,
be.
that's the highest day.
The big holiday.
The big
it's
holiday
the opposite
is
of Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah. Hey, celebrate. No repress. Yes. But yeah, so that's LaVeyan's work. I don't know the tenets of the Temple of Satan or not.
But then there's the Temple of Set.
Temple of Set is Michael Aquino and
Okay.
Lilith. And they're Setian, but they're coming at it from the Egyptian aspect, but looking at Set as
the good guy.
Yeah.
Like during the period when Set was the god that everybody was putting on their sarcophagus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's cool,
So, but you were talking about a different form, the one that you had experience with?
Well, I had experience with LaVeyan's
okay.
work, but I'm trying to really understand what they're doing, spiritually, if it's spiritual. Like a lot of people that I've met that are quote unquote Satanists, that they're not doing a mass every week. They're not setting up temple and ritual every week. And I'm wondering if the Temple of Satan is doing that, but like if they have actual masses, because I'm a religionist. I love studying all that stuff,
Well, I think that whether they're atheistic or not, invoking the word Shatem or Satan, it's the accuser. When you look at Job, it's the one that says, these people aren't hot shit. You think they're hot shit, they're not hot shit. I bet if you took away his, he'd curse you, God. That's what you're invoking, and it's the accuser. It's the prosecuting attorney. So people are adopting as their self-identified religion the role of prosecuting attorney in the Judeo-Christian system, basically, as their patron saint, as the unpopular archangel who not only did he fall, but he was the first to fall and caused everyone else to fall.
And which is kind of funny now, because you look at Fox and they've got Lucifer, the TV show. I've been watching it, and it's tongue in cheek, but it's amazing how he's left hell and he walks earth, and he's like, I'm not a bad guy, I'm just doing my job, and it's kind of comical when you watch it. It's worth watching a couple times. The actor's actually funny in it. But so what about you? I mean, now this is stepping back since we're on this podcast. Let us know. We do know each other.
Yeah, well, the stuff you and I both know that the audience might not know.
Yeah.
You knew my mom. We were buddies together back in the day.
Yeah. You were 18?
I was 16.
16,
and we were working at Ren Fair. We were zealotors together.
Yes, we were.
And good times. And you were the priest in my illegal wedding done without the consent of the parents of the minor who was here in this room.
Oh my God, you're right. That was so long ago.
So illegal.
Oh
no, then later my mom got on the phone with her and said, and if you break your oath, I will run you through with that sword. And so she broke the law again, like threatening to kill a minor. Mom. She had 5 warrants out for her arrest, it turned out, when she died, or a few years after she died. She had just some leftover tickets she hadn't taken. And the cops were very upset about pulling me over one time until I told them, you should make a note that she's dead, because it sort of freaked me out when you have the gun out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was like, put your hands where I can see him, and everything. Well, he had his hand hovering by his gun, and he's like, who, because I lived in the same house, and it's some, Fight Club, like where the guys are squatting in Fight Club, and I live in the same house as this woman who has 5 warrants, and so he's like, okay, take him down. Oh shit!
She was amazing. Your mom was amazing. We had great times. And you guys, I had my first legal marriage in your backyard.
That's true, and I was the priest of the South.
You sure were.
And my hand-fasted wife at the time was the priestess of the South.
That's so crazy. And Merlin came in HP.
Oh, Merlin.
Merlin from Ren Fair.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was Celestial.
Yeah, so Celestial Coven. That's right.
So these were the people that were doing all the magic at the Renaissance Fair at the time.
Yes.
Southern Fair. Were they doing Northern Fair?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. They were doing all fair.
Yeah.
And so my mom and I were in the little inner circle of the people doing that. And it really impressed the lady that I was working for, because she was always very condescending to me, because I was the new kid, the dumb kid. I was the kid. And she would say, I have these rocks, and do you feel their energy? Oh, well, one day you'll be able to feel their energy, And then she comes to the ritual, and I'm conducting the ritual.
Yeah,
and she's like, awesome. I'm so proud of you. And then they were much nicer to me after that.
That's so funny.
Story of my life.
What happened to your friend?
Which one?
I always forget his name. He became a Mason.
Oh, you're thinking of Chris O'Malley.
Is that?
Yeah, he became DeMolay, but he left after like a minute.
He came in DeMolay.
Yeah. Because
Is he still around?
Yeah, he's around. He teaches high school in Glendale.
Wow.
I know, right? Yeah, he's been on a couple of podcasts, and not on this podcast, but on the Edward Reed podcast.
Well, I know you guys also had a little band there for a while.
Yeah, Fall from Eden.
Yeah, I remember that. That's crazy.
Good times.
Look, this is the first time I've been here since 96?
Wow. Yeah, so you were living here.
Yes.
You moved in. You were thrown out of the order that we were all in, and we harbored.
Crowley got thrown out too.
And we got thrown out too. The person who I never name on this podcast called us up and threw us out, and we were crying on the phone saying, "Please don't throw us out."
Is it that name?
And he said, "We're going to consult the Third Order again," and then he called us back and said, "Okay, you guys can stay in." But the initial thing was, sometimes to cut a cancer out of the body, a few healthy cells have to go down with it. That was why we were getting thrown out, for letting you live here. But
really?
Yeah, but we stood our ground, and then they backed down and let us stay. And they kept giving us shit about it.
The bad guy.
Continually giving us shit about it. Yeah.
So crazy. And he told me I could stay if I cut my hair. And I was like, yeah, right. I don't know about this. That guy, that he who shall not be named. Totally.
We do call him Voldemort sometimes.
Voldemort.
Everyone left finally in the end. So
where are you with all that now? Do you teach?
I formally left, very formally, in ritual. Then someone requested that I have a class, and so I had a class, and then I got a message from ISIS that said, if you're going to teach classes and still call yourself a sanctuary of the order, then here are the rules. We've all gotten together and decided there's rules now, and you can't have drugs, and you can't teach Buddhism, or like you have to just teach Golden Dawn. So I wrote a formal letter saying, I and my sanctuary are no longer affiliated with the Temple of Isis of the Order of the Golden Dawn Universum.
Wasn't Hermes Hathor around here?
Yeah, that was in Burbank.
Yeah, it was Burbank.
Yeah, yeah. That was another person who I preserve his identity. He came on as the priest, but we're still not mentioning that he, anything specific about his past, on account of his bishop might hear.
Right. Oh, right.
Might have some explaining to do.
Explaining. I was hanging out with the Blue Sapphire Lodge.
Oh, cool.
OTO.
Cool.
I was kicking it with Susan and some of them. I was going to some outer stuff. I still go out and do that stuff. I went and I studied. I love studying different aspects, because I did my year and a day with 2 groups down in Orange County before I met you. That would have been like 88 to 92.
That was Druidic Craft of the Wise of America.
Yes, it was.
Me too.
Right on.
I got up to the point where I graduated advanced, my mom and I both, and they said, because Rainey had overheard from Lisa, who had blabbed that we were in the order, and so she went back and told Sterling, and Sterling gave us an ultimatum and said, we're not going to initiate you unless you quit the Golden Dawn. So we said, okay, well, bye. That's lame. We would have kept going. We would have been priest and priestess, in a Wiccan, but...
Rainey, I liked her though. The dragon lady.
I wonder if she's still around.
She died.
Oh.
So did Judith Dufresne.
She was a bitch to me. I don't
Judith?
mourn Judith's death.
Yeah.
She was a real bitch to me.
Yeah, she was kind of mean to me too, and I used to actually intern there. She was mean back then. I ran into
She loved my mom though. She was teaching her to invoke Lilith, and she gave us the black magic we used to kill this guy Ross Tyree.
Really?
He was stalking my mom for 10 years, and then we started burning his photographs really slowly, calling on the Dark Mother, doing this little rhyme, and then he got this skin disease where his skin was peeling off like an old photograph that was being burned.
Wow.
And then he died. Yeah. And then we took our oath never to do black magic again, so...
Get that one out of the way.
Yeah, let's do that, and then our neophyte.
Did you happen to see Witch?
No.
I went and saw it.
Oh, is it recent?
Yeah, it's a new movie that's out by I guess the company's called Studio 24. They're a new independent film company. It went through the film festivals and did really well, and it is it's the time frame is pre-Massachusetts, New England, when they're coming over in the Puritan movement before America, and this family gets cast out of this small little village that they lived in, and they go off on their own. So, and basically they come in contact with a real witch, and it's not about the witch craze. It would be as if witches did exist, and they actually go and they float, and they're coating their brooms, their besoms, and using menstrual blood, and it visually you should go see it. And there's Black Phillip. Black Phillip is the goat. And the little kids they speak to him, and they go, "Ma," and they talk to the goat.
Wow.
And he's just gorgeous and beautiful.
I saw a picture, and I'm sure people can Google this, is the first woman with face tattoos in America, first white woman. She was like kidnapped, or her parents were killed, and then she was raised by Mohawk Indians, I believe, and then she got rescued, or whatever, and then brought back to Salem. And I think it was Salem, I could be wrong, but she had these great face tattoos, and she did some like herbal stuff that the Native Americans taught her, so she was kind of like one of the really interesting characters that people were talking about being a witch, and
wow.
First face tattoos on an American
crazy.
citizen.
Yeah. That's cool. So you traveling a lot?
Not a lot, but I'd like to travel more. I mean, from here on out. We went to Japan for 3 weeks, and that was fantastic. Wow. And I love that. And right now, Janie's in school, but when she's done, we're going to celebrate by going to New York for at least a long weekend or something.
Really? I'm getting married. Well, I'm not married yet. I'm officially engaged.
Congratulations.
To an amazing woman. Her parents are from Crete. I'm going out of the country for the first time in my life. We're going to Crete. I'm going to go to the cave where Zeus was born.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's her hometown or village is right below the cave.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm getting to see it. I'm getting to see it out of the country finally in my 50s.
Very cool. Congratulations.
Well, thank you for talking to me. And,
absolutely.
I hope I'd like to come back and talk to you more about the SM stuff. It's super important to me to start getting that out there, and I really do want to develop more around it.
Well, and I like to, kind of plant seeds of ideas among the listeners of this podcast, because these are people coming from a variety of backgrounds, tarot, or witchcraft, Wicca, or Golden Dawn, or even voodoo, and there's some...
I love voodoo. I love some great Haitian and Santeria, both of them. I love them both.
Yeah.
I've got an ex-protege of mine who is really, really well known in the BDSM community, named Mistress Melissa, and she dedicated her life to Santeria, and she goes back and forth to Cuba like constantly, and she's got a whole family there, and she lives her life like for, I forget the amount of years, but she wore nothing but white, shaved her head, or the top of her head was painted white at all times. She can only wear certain colors to this day. Her children, now she has 2 children that were both born into the tradition. And it's amazing that her children are wicked intelligent. Before her oldest daughter, who is now I think 6 or 7, when the first 6 months of her life, she was signing, and she's just a really intelligent little girl and understands all the Orisha and the movement, and she goes to rituals, and she was raised in it, so she really, it's a beautiful thing. She's someone else to really, if you want to talk to somebody.
Yeah, totally. That'd be interesting. 24
hours a day. I mean, that's her life for now. I think it's going on 11 or 12 years. I mean, she's amazing.
One other thing I wanted to mention, the David Bowie connection.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Bowie.
Yeah. I interviewed Lon Milo Duquette, and I asked him, because there were rumors going around that people in the OTO were saying that David Bowie was OTO, and I was thinking, no, he's not. And so I asked Lon Milo Duquette, because if he was, he would know. And he said, well, I never met him, and I was like, okay. And but separately from that, he had mentioned that he felt that Mark Twain is a god. He's, he's perfect. Mm-hmm. So he went through and he got all these great Mark Twain quotes and made this oracle card system out of it, and it works.
Lon did?
Lon Milo DeCat
Yeah,
did that with
okay.
Mark Twain.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that was when you asked me to comment on the article that was talking about David Bowie's occult background. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
And then so I wrote that sort of eulogy that a lot of people liked. Apparently it resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah. So that's all really good stuff. And
In the wake of that is I did the oracle cards. So those two elements came together and resulted in the David Bowie oracle cards.
And his work, I mean, you can see it, especially in the early albums.
Yeah.
Like I was really obsessed with the whole Station to Station.
Oh yeah.
You know, and how he wore that, and coming out of the Vanity in Lazarus.
Yeah.
The exact same outfit. And Station to Station, a lot of people didn't get it, but that's all about traveling up the tree.
Yeah.
That's
And
totally
and the wardrobe, the
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis.
Yeah. You know, so there's so many great things about, like, especially like for me right now. I think I have a new David Bowie album that's always a favorite that comes out, and right now I'm stuck in The Man Who Sold the World.
Oh, nice.
You know, and the song Quicksand is just so beautiful. You know, he quotes a lot of Crowley in that. You know, and he just has some amazing things. I've read a lot of his earlier stuff in his early years where he was really going for it. Like during the Man Who Sold the World phase, he was really on a Crowley buzz, though. Big time. Like, there's pictures of him in full Nemesis and Golden Dawn Requiem. And I'm just nailing it.
That was what inspired us to take that photo shoot with Janie, with the pillars and all the cool stuff.
Really?
And because she had her hair half purple and half black, so it was like I was like, okay, we got to do your Bowie shoot, you know. So
That's
we did that.
cool.
Yeah.
You know, but I think he was. He's so important to so many people, and it's so much more than just a musician, you know.
Yeah.
He was
true artist.
Yeah.
That was his means. He worked through music and imagery. I mean, through working with
so many levels.
Jim Henson. Oh my God, I love
Labyrinth.
Oh, yeah. We just watched it again.
The Hunger.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
wow,
The Hunger was beautiful. You know.
Yeah.
The Man Who Fell to Earth.
I have to see that one. I haven't
It's
seen
amazing.
It's pretty cool in
there's so many.
Zoolander.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. Zoolander. There's a lot of things. Twin Peaks.
Not to mention his videos.
Yeah.
Oh, Twin Peaks.
That's right.
Firewalk with Me.
Yeah.
He was great.
Yeah.
Classic.
So, Bowie always pops up, you know.
Yeah.
He is the man that everybody wants. around.
Everybody had that reaction that, he's immortal. How could he be dead?
Exactly, and
he's
what I
always
still
been a
like
part
to
of
it.
our lives. He's always been there. He's part of the universe. How could he go away?
He is. He's the macrocosm.
And I love that
crazy.
those astronomers created that constellation.
That's amazing.
It's beautiful.
That is really amazing. That he deserves that.
Yeah.
Because he is. I mean, and I think a lot of people are like, oh, that's just a Bowie fan saying that. No, he's transcendental.
Yeah.
Completely transcendental. I mean, he did so much and touched in so many ways. I love that picture. There's a picture of the Pope touching a picture.
Yeah, I love that.
Of Aladdin saying it, and
yeah.
he's like crying.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's like, he's Bowie.
Francis is fucking cool.
He is
I have to
fucking
say,
cool.
it's nice to have a pope
I'm digging
you
on
can say
him.
is fucking
Yeah,
cool
he's
for
a cool
a change.
dude. Delicious food. He's
Yeah,
got it going on.
yeah. JP2 was almost cool. He was like,
Yeah.
wow, everything's cool about this guy except when he starts talking about homosexuality and abortion. Then
So
it's like,
silly.
oh
He like
shit.
rained on
And
it.
then he was like buddies with Reagan, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, he was almost as cool as.
I voted for Reagan.
Oh yeah.
I
Back
liked
in the
his
day,
hair.
So did my mom.
I liked his hair.
Well, people like the actor.
He had good hair.
Yeah. They didn't know the politics, the history of his labor.
Yeah,
Well, no,
exactly.
he was pro-labor. He was, president of the Screen Actors Guild. Then on his first day as president, he's like, fire all the air traffic controllers, and then so the Screen Actors Guild was like handing him the Lifetime Achievement Award, and then they withdrew it as soon as he did
take
that.
it
They're
back.
like, apparently we've grown apart since.
There's something I was just going to actually bring up with you. That was super important.
Oh, we did a ritual once. I wanted to mention because I thought it was funny and ironic that I went on to become a Golden Dawn adept and you went on to do satanic stuff.
Yeah.
When we fast forward back to when I was 15 and I was trying to do some kind of black magic to attack the parents of my girlfriend who had locked her up and taken my journal and all that stuff. And you were saying maybe we should invoke the god and goddess and ask them to guide this and make sure that and I'm like, don't be a pussy. So.
God damn it.
We're doing black magic here.
Yeah.
You know, like this
And
isn't, you know.
color phases of magic. It's
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
You know, it's don't be a pussy.
Well, it just goes to show. I mean, there's that there's early Christian spell work where it's like, Virgin Mary, make my enemies sterile. You know, so it's like you have Christians doing black magic on one hand, and you have Satanists doing white magic on the other hand. It's all just, you know, you can't predict anything anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you find saints walking among sinners and sinners among saints every day. You know,
Go out and put like a nail in somebody's tree. Let it. And did you ever see that one? When
No.
they do that, they would take a rusty nail and they would drive it into a tree and plight them. And actually, the rust was just killing the tree.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's still a drag. Cause
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. If you're eating the fruit from that tree, especially in the old days. Now you go to the grocery store, but you know.
That's true. There was something I wanted to bring up with you. All right. Yeah, I want to know. I have a question for you because coming here today, we're doing this for my dear friend's eulogy.
Right.
And his memorial.
Did you want to mention? I didn't know.
I will bring that up towards the end. But what I would like to bring up from you, and it's amazing because I get to speak with Edward. I can say your name here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Edward was very much, I mean, there's a lot of years in between when we've hung out. But he was like a younger brother to me for years. I remember, and I might be wrong on this, but I remember... You might think I didn't say that, and I'm not trying to call you out, but you were young. You were running up the stairs in the house, and you were really excited, and you said, "Oh my God, I got tickets to go see Nine Inch Nails in concert."
Oh
and I
my
said,
God.
"Really?" And yeah, and I'm like, "Who else?" And you said, "Bowie or somebody's opening up for him," and I freaked out on you. I was like, "What?" I was like, "What did you say?" I was like so upset.
No, it was Bowie was afterward. He was opening up for Bowie.
Yeah, was it?
And the sad thing was, half the audience left when Trent Reznor finished.
That's so sad.
I know, it was fucked.
Afraid Americans.
Yeah.
But what I want to talk to you about, Edward, the thing about Edward, and I've been, I have to say this, you know, there was a brief time in our lives when we were very, very, very tight. And I always wanted to keep that kindred. You know, that's super important to me. I'm very important. The people in my life stay in my life. Like my friend who just passed. And your mother was a huge part of my life. And she is part of my soul, you know, and losing her was very hard for me. And being with you during that time, watching you grow, and you're an amazing man.
Thank you.
And I left when you were young, you know, and now you're at the age you're at now, and you've done the things you do and you say. Like I whenever I need some kind of understanding or some kind of way to connect, I know that if I get on Facebook and I write to you, you have an answer.
Thank you.
You become an amazing man, and it's amazing to be sitting here all these years later. So with that, and I'm tearing up and being really weird. I don't know anything. I know things about, you know, I'm very versed in voodoo, Wicca, neo-paganism, Satanism, OTO, Golden Dawn, and some of the offshoots in between. But I know nothing about Buddhism. And it always seems to me like something brings me that direction, and then I purposely will take a left and get out of the way of it. But it keeps coming up. And I remember reading Confessions by Crowley years ago, and was talking about Alex Bennett, who I guess was his mentor.
Alan Bennett?
Or was it Alan Bennett?
Yeah.
Alan Bennett.
He got into Eastern.
Yeah, and he went Eastern, and then Crowley went
He's
Eastern.
the guy who
in the
wrote
end.
the Invocation of Thought.
Right. So what can you...
Well, I can tell you the most basic thing about Buddhism, which is that once upon a time there was an Hindu Indian prince who had everything and was rich, and his father wanted him to never suffer. His mother died when he was a baby, and his father went so far as to withhold from him knowledge that he has a mother. And when he was 19 years old, I believe it was. I might be getting some of the details wrong, but he saw a poor man for the first time, and he was like, "What's that? What on earth is that? It's like a human, but he's all shriveled up, and I've never seen an old person, I've never seen a poor person, I've never seen a dying person. What's death?" And because his dad wanted him to just have this like, "No, everything's fine. There's no suffering," and he was king, and he was a wealthy king, so he was able to create this illusion, sort of like the Truman Show, And so once he saw suffering, he couldn't get it out of his head. Mm-hmm. So he made it his lifelong goal to alleviate suffering, to rid the world of suffering, to free himself and everyone else from suffering, to find the way to be free of suffering. So he sat under the Bodhi tree, which is a kind of tree.
I understand the Bodhi, yeah, sure.
And eventually, there's the 8 Noble Truths and the Fourfold Path and all this stuff. But the basic gist of it was he realized that it's the desire, it's the clinging itself that results in the suffering. That now Gordon, my teacher, one of my teachers of, Gordon, one of my teachers of Buddhism, he added to that, and he even said that the Buddha said this, but all I know is Gordon said this, is that if you want to keep the desire, you have to embrace the suffering, which is kind of more along the lines of BDSM.
Very much so.
Yeah, well, if you want to have desire, then accept the pain. You want a rose? Here's the thorns.
Yeah.
And so that was what he, if you want to not suffer, then stop clinging. And there's like various levels where you can look at that. Now there's an ancient yoga principle called not ahimsa, it's a parigraha, which means non-coveting, non-greed, but it also means non-clinging, non-desiring, and it's one of the principles of yoga. So that there's an overlap between Buddhism and yoga right there. I mean, there's a lot of overlap, but anyway. So that's the most basic gist of it, is an understanding that I suffer because I desire. And that if I walk into it with expectations, then and it doesn't turn out the way I expect, and then I get mad, that's my own fault for coming into it with expectations. And the reason I'm angry now is because of my own because of what I brought to the table, not because of the table. And so what happened was so there's this Indian prince, and he has these students. And then there's the king, Malhotra, who comes along later, and he loves this idea, this new thing going on in India. And he spreads it, and he makes it the law of the land for a while, or the religion of his people. And then eventually people start to migrate eastward and bring it into Tibet. Now, by the time it gets to Tibet, it's so sophisticated and developed that they're like retroactively saying, yeah, well, then he went back under the tree, and then he came up with all of these mandalas and all of these different things and all this teaching, the 28,000 subtle threads of this and of the Tantra and all of this, Vajrayana Buddhism, Tantric Buddhism. And so by the time Padmasambhava came to Tibet, bringing Buddhism. Now they had some elements of Mahayana Buddhism already, but he brought in this really empowered, like third eye. You got the Dorja symbol in there, like the lightning bolt symbol, and third eye wide open, and he's got this big grin on his face, and he's the second Buddha, and he's got all these jewels on him and stuff like that. So that's Buddhism by the time it got to Tibet. And so then meanwhile, there's like the earlier form of Buddhism, which has already gotten into China. And so there's like a couple different, so you start to differentiate after a while. Like once you look into Christianity long enough, you go, well, are we talking Orthodox Christianity or Catholic Christianity or Puritanism or Quakerism? Sure. So there's a lot of different forms of Buddhism. So on the Buddhist path, for a person who, is coming from the outside, first is a matter of study. And seeing what resonates, because sometimes you have someone over here saying that this guy's full of shit, and so it's like, okay, well, you're both Buddhist masters. Who am I supposed to listen to? Now, Dogen is the most prime example of that, and I think that's actually why he's unpopular in Japan. Now I'm talking about Zen. Zen Buddhism is very popular here because the aesthetic is popular, I think. The Zen garden is popular, and it became popular in the West. Now, if you go to Japan, they're like, yeah, we've got Shinto Buddhism, we've got I'm messing with the word, the Buddhism, the Shingon, the esoteric Buddhism, the same as the Tibetan Buddhism that made it all the way to Japan. Over here, we've got, the Pure Land Buddhism over here, we've got this Buddhism over here and that Buddhism over there, and then people are like, well, where's your Zen Buddhism? And they're like, with the fucking Zen Buddhism. It's over there. Whatever.
So what about, like, now they have all these denominations. Now, where does, like, the Soka Gakkai and Nichiren Shoshu come in through all this with the Lotus Sutra?
That's pretty early on. Yeah, those sutras are universally accepted by. Oh, you're talking about the Japanese movement, the Nam-myoho Renge Kyo.
Yeah.
Now, my limited understanding of that was that it's a guy. It was kind of heretical at the time because he said that anyone who seeks to live their Buddha nature is a bodhisattva, as opposed to someone that has to be appointed by some organization. And so it was designed to free it from the politics of running a temple by having it in people's houses and stuff like that. So that's what I know about that, and I think that that's a positive thing. Because from what I've heard, because the Tao Te Ching is a book that's worth checking out, but it'll say stuff like, he who speaks does not know, he who knows does not speak, and someone
Yoda stuff.
Yeah, like a Westerner will throw it across the room and say, fuck this, and like get the tarot deck back out. My dad would say, something with some teeth.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Tao, it's like nice to read, but if you're talking about and then you go to a Tao temple, a Tao Buddhist temple, and you're like, this seems nice, but then you like talk to the people running it, and there's some like ego shit going on too. Just like you'd find in any other kind of organization. So it's good when they're freeing it from the shackles of an organization. Now, a couple other points that just real quick that I want to make. The tantric Buddhism, where it was just the 8 Noble Truths about how to not suffer and doing good and karma. There's a few things I should have them memorized, but I don't. I just can't rattle them off. Okay. But that got into China, and they already had Taoism, and Taoism was if you do nothing, everything takes care of itself. And so Mahayana Buddhism and Taoism kind of merged together and became what they call Chan, which is actually the Chinese word for meditation, or dhyana. And that is what Dogen brought back with him and called it Zen. So that's the connection there. But they kind of, in a retroactive fantasy, I mean, it's kind of rude to say it's a retroactive fantasy, but they said, people are like, well, when it was getting popular and the emperor was like, we don't like this, it's new, I forbid this. And then 20 years later, it's incredibly popular because they forbade it. And then, okay, I don't forbid it anymore.
Like Christianity?
And yeah. And then everybody should send their kids there. And then then they have all these kids to take care of. So then they start hitting them with rulers and making them sit all day. And that's where Zen started to turn into what we think of now when we think of a Zen monastery. Because they were just everybody's babysitter, and it was a lot of spoiled rich boys. But anyway, what was I talking about? Shit. Oh, yeah, they were like, okay, so where does your particular form of Buddhism come from, and why is it better than the other forms of Buddhism? Because everybody has a lineage, everybody has a story, a backstory, it goes all the way back to Buddha. And they were like, oh, yeah, well, ours came from Bodhidharma. Oh, who's Bodhidharma? Oh, he was a very intense man. He came from India, and he came to China 100 years ago. And he came before Emperor so-and-so. And he said, and the emperor said, why have you come before me? And the man said, I don't know. And so the emperor threw him away because what use are you? And so he sat and stared at a wall for 7 years until his disciple came on and said, I want you to teach me. And he said, fuck off. And he cut off his arm and said, here's my arm. I want you to teach me. He says, okay. And so then that's where Zen came from. And then, oh, well, what about him? Where was his teacher? Why does that go back? How come they have the better story than all these other forms of Buddhism? Okay. Well, Bodhidharma's teachers, all the way back was this guy named Mahakasyapa. And he got the real teaching of Buddha, not like these other idiots. Oh, well, what was that? And he was like, okay, well, when Buddha was done doing all his talking or whatever, and everybody's copiously taking notes, then one day he said, okay, now I'm going to give you the actual secret of Buddhism. And all of his disciples gathered around him. And they were all ready, and he smiled, and he picked up a flower. And Mahakasyapa nodded and smiled too, because he got it. Uh-huh. And everybody else was waiting for him to say something. And that's where Zen Buddhism came from.
Wow.
So there's a lot to know about Buddhism, and I mean, I don't know much. There's a lot I don't know. I know enough. My dad raised me with certain basic principles. It's like in Christianity they say, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." Yeah. Or else you'll go to hell because you want to go to heaven or whatever. Yeah. In Buddhism, it's the same exact thing, except it's because ultimately we are all one, and karma. What you put out there comes back to
which
you.
is another little segment I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Which is leading into that.
Yeah.
I guess we can go there next. So when people talk to me about karma, this is what I tell them. Okay? People bring it up all the time. First off, this is coming back from the Wicca phases in the late 80s, early 90s. The people come up to me. Well, so ain't it harm none, do what thou will. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. And basically that it's a sevenfold law. Mm-hmm. If you do something good, good things will come to you 7 times. If you do something bad, the same in reverse.
Right.
That you hear that theory, and then you hear the whole thing.
Or 3 or whatever.
Or the threefold. Yeah. Well, there's going to be the numbers, those key numbers, of course, or 3s or 7s or 9s.
21. Yeah.
21. Yeah. It's for me when people talk about karma. And again, I'm not adept in this field at all, mm-hmm. but I explained this is how I see karma. Karma is not something that you do, like I helped this lady across the street, so I'm gonna be better tomorrow for that reason.
Right.
Karma, the way I see karma is what you live every day.
Yeah.
And it's not a conscious movement. It's if you follow reincarnation, you're moving through your lives down through the tree. Mm. And people want to be like, it's like they're paying the piper to get a good karmic card. Right. To me, it isn't something that works like that.
Yeah.
Karma's not just given out because you do something nice one day. Yeah. And you can suck the others, and I think a lot of people misunderstand that.
Well, there's the word dharma, which has a few different usages, and it's used...
Dharma and Greg.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a word that's used in Hinduism, and it's a word that's used in Indian Buddhism, a word that's used a little differently in Chinese Buddhism, and a word that comes up in Japanese Buddhism a little differently. So it's kind of like hard to pin down. Do is the Japanese word. It means way. So the way, your dharma, what you do. So if you're a monk, then your dharma is sweeping and burning incense and all these things you do. But literally speaking, karma means act. It means deed. So karma phala means the deed's result, the consequence. So when people say, "Oh, well, that's your karma," what they mean is that's your karma phala. The karma was what you did.
Is cause and effect.
Yeah. The karma phala is the effect, and the karma is the deed itself.
That's what I was saying. The cut. Karma.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
but what you were describing is like the thing where it's all one and reincarnation and we're all dancing together. What Dogen, the guy who brought Zen to Japan, calls, well, and he's making reference to someone else, and I don't know who it is, but it's the flowers in space opening and closing, or opening and the galaxies and just everything. Mm-hmm. That's the Dharma. It's all just religion is an attempt to. I think that a religion tends to turn an orange into a clockwork, if you will.
Sure.
Like what already is the seasons gets expressed as the liturgical calendar. It's like someone decided to build a wristwatch and see if they could make it run forever. And that too is part of nature. It's even man's attempt to blind his fellow man is part of nature, unfortunately. I don't know. Yeah.
So I'm throwing all these weird questions to you, but these are things I need to answer.
I love David J. He said,
Jay,
yeah. You cannot go against nature, because when you do go against nature, it's a part of nature.
Go against nature, because when you do, go against nature, it's part of nature too.
No, tell to tell.
That's it, yeah. So, here's another little question that's off the shot.
Sure.
The side. So, you know how in the Golden Dawn,
mm-hmm.
and in CM, we do what's called the middle pillar ritual, which is the Hebraic god names used in tonality to resonate off certain areas of the body and lining up certain energies to get a cause and effect, to make an effect happen.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing as chakras?
No.
They're not, right?
A lot of people have attempted to overlap them, but I think that it might be safe. Yeah, exactly. It might be safe to say that the middle pillar ritual was inspired by chakras.
It was.
But it was, there's throughout history, and I've known a few myself. There's people who want it all to be Western, or at least want to be able to sell it to people who insist that it must be Western. And so, so where I came from, the guy that I usually don't mention his name, turned the chakras into the gates of Jerusalem. And so there was the Golden Gate and the Doffer Gate and the Doffer Gate and the Damascus Gate so we'd work with them, and everything about them was the same as the chakras, but they weren't chakras. They were the gates of Jerusalem, and we're Jerusalem. And it's like really weird, But so there's always been attempts that actually one could make an argument was a better attempt to westernize working with the chakras than the middle pillar was.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't give that. I'll probably edit that out because I'm not going to give him that much credit while he's still alive. But
yeah, I've got my own debt. I've got my own little settle. I want to have with that guy someday.
Yeah.
Wow, he did me bad. He did.
Yeah.
He said the bad, and he made me feel so bad about who I was, and he had no right to do that.
No.
So I believed in everything we did. I was a
Yeah.
little overzealous sometimes.
Yeah.
But it was always in the purest way. But he just seemed like anybody that was a threat, he perceived as a threat, he wanted to remove. And,
Yeah.
and I'm like, why else would you want me to cut my hair off? Because it makes you feel what,
Well, the amazing thing that I got to witness, and I'm grateful that I got to live in this time period and witness, was the evolution or the development of the internet alongside the Temple of Isis, starting with AOL, and through alt magic and developing into Yahoo news groups, and then eventually you find out that everybody, anybody who's doing Golden Dawn magic is making a website, and then it's like, oh my God, there's a lot of fucking temples around the country, around the world, and the interconnectedness. He also was using those classic Fox News cult tactics of creating an enemy. You got to have you got to have everybody on board against the common enemy, and that enemy could be
ISIS.
Yeah, or yeah. Well, nowadays it would be, but now back then it was the OTO. The OTO was the common enemy, and then people would leave, and it'd be the ex-adepts or his ex-wife or whatever. Or later on, it was David Griffin. The other Golden Dawn Order. And he was Chick for a while. And then he ended up getting along with Chick, so he sort of 1984'd that out of existence. Like, no, Chick was never our enemy.
What do you think would have been like if Mathers and Crowley and them guys got to witness all of that?
A lot of face palming going on.
Crowley probably would have just laughed and laughed, but Mathers, I think, would have probably not liked what he saw.
No.
Same Dion Fortune.
Well, they wouldn't have thought that it was a good. I mean, I think that it depends on where they were coming from. Anyone in Victorian England would probably disapprove of everything that's going on now, but. In general, but it had other elements, instead they were bringing in Freemasons and people that were already established and stuff like that, and
the Rosicrucian lodges, and
right,
coming in,
and ISIS was putting flyers out and just initiating anyone who could scrape together the initiation fee, and so it was very different. But I mean, I think that they, in general, they might, because while that was going on in a bubble, there were other things going on in other bubbles, and we didn't have a link yet. I mean, there was one guy in Georgia that was calling in and was a BBS. It wasn't even the internet yet, and that's how we ended up with the first satellite temples.
I remember the satellite temples.
Yeah,
that's right.
They all became the CSS. There were a bunch of them in the end.
I always thought about years later. I actually drove by the old store.
Nice.
Yeah,
over on Mountain.
Yeah, over on Mountain.
By the Togos.
Mm-hmm. And I always hope that. I'm talking about cause and effect. I hope that the people that remember me don't remember me as what he painted me, but may realize that he was really doing that to me, and that at least some of them.
As far as I know, he might have been talking to people one-on-one about you, but he wasn't talking to groups of people about you. So I don't know what. People remembered you fondly, I think.
Yeah, I liked them all. That was so hard, and I was devastated when that happened to me.
Yeah,
that was like being raped.
Yeah.
That was a raping. And you can talk about this to people out there in the world, but tell you, and this is where these things are very real on all these levels for people that live it. When you are told by people of the second order that are so strong and that you look up to, and they tell you that the chiefs of the third order have decided that you not only cannot be in the group, but you have to be reverse circumambulated. That basically is telling you that you don't exist. That fucking hurt.
Yeah.
So much. That pain, that was like a rape to me. That was one of the most invasive things I've ever gone through. To know that they went through backwards and erased me. That sucked, man, and it made me so angry. But then I started.
We went through it again, though.
Huh?
You came back when TDL was in charge.
We did.
We did it again.
We did it again. I did my second one. That's right.
Yeah.
By the way, what about jumping ADHD, guys? We both have this. Patricia Monaster.
Oh, in France?
She's in France.
Oh wait, no. The only Patricia I knew was in France. I'm not sure who you're referring to.
Chris Monaster.
Oh yeah.
Patricia's her real name.
Is she
still alive?
I don't know. I haven't heard that she died, so
She was who I first was taking classes from way before I was in the Golden Dawn.
Pope Runyon now runs the Golden Dawn Temple that she. They apparently don't have a direct charter from her. They just have her furniture, but they're connected to her somehow.
Yeah, we used to meet. I used to meet with her at the Masonic Lodge in Venice Beach.
That's Rigardi's furniture, actually. That's Rigardi's old pillars.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, really?
Yeah, those were her pillars.
Yeah, I actually went through that. That was my first. The first time I went through anything was with her, and then she disappeared. And I think about her all the time. I think about her.
Patricia Beeman.
Is that her last name?
Pat Beeman or Chris Monastre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pat Beeman. Yeah, I'd like to find her and see if she's still alive.
Yeah.
What's going on with her?
Well, she was freaked out by all the Golden Dawn wars of 1995 on the internet. When the internet it's so crazy. My dad had a great quote about when you put a bunch of hermits in isolated dungeons by themselves for eons, and you have them all discover light on their own, and then you open up all the doors at once. What happens? They're all competing. For their and it's interesting because I read that a bunch of times, and then the internet started to. I was like, oh, this is happening right now. All these chief adepts. It's funny when chief adepts are acting like fucking roosters, and the neophytes are acting like what the chief adepts should be acting like. So
that's crazy stuff. I think about her, and I lost touch with her. It was really hard. Who else passed away? It was George from Panpipes.
Oh, I remember him. There was a funny story about him, and I won't say the girl's name, but she was a student of mine.
Okay.
And when she was like 14, she was a Catholic school girl, so she went in there. I'm pretty sure this is about George. Forgive me, George, from wherever you are, if this is about someone else. But she went in there and she was like, "What's this? Oh, what does this do?" And she's really cute, you know. And he's like locking the door, he's like, well, I'm gonna lock up here. You can stay if you want to, but I'm gonna have to make an ingredient for this concoction that I'm working on. You could actually help me with that if you don't mind. And she's like, well, what do I have to do? He's like, you don't have to do anything. Just sit over there. Yeah. And then he proceeded to make the semen that he needed for...
Of course, the sacrifice. Yeah.
And then George. She left.
That was George. I remember when I worked there, I had a woman that was a doctor that was having a really torrid affair. And she was gorgeous. The best way I could explain this woman was she... And I'm not a Disney fan, but the animated character that plays Aladdin's girlfriend or wife in the cartoon.
Oh, yeah. Jasmine?
Jasmine, she looked just like her.
Oh, I heard that, yeah.
And this woman would come in, and she would take off all her clothes, and I would put sigillum all over her body and dove's blood.
Nice.
And it was crazy. It was a crazy time to get a spell work done. George and I would do some crazy things in there. But then I heard some really bad things.
I heard a few things. I brought it up with Fruza Balk when she called. I happened to answer the phone, and it's like, yeah, this is Fruza Balk. Could you tell me what it says on my record? Where I'm like, and so it's like, sorry, it's taking a minute to pull up, and so I couldn't resist it. I was like, I used to hang around panpipes hoping I'd run into you, and she was like, oh, and so then I kind of introduced myself, and
well, you'll meet her Friday.
That's nuts. Should we? Oh yeah, we were gonna mention that.
Yeah, we should.
I mean, it's not like come one, come all, because I'm
Yeah,
sure all
I
the
mean-
people are already signed up to go, but.
Yeah, well, we're doing one of my dearest friends in life has moved on to the greater feast, as they say in the LTO, and he's
Is
left.
that the one where Crowley makes you eat shit?
I hope not, because Freddie will be really pissed. But we're gonna do a memorial service for him over at Hollywood Forever. And
The old Masonic Hall.
you're going to do a Golden Dawn Requiem for us.
Gonna do a Requiem. And, and apparently Fruza Balk's gonna be there, so no pressure. Just doing a Golden
an
Dawn
Inokian
Requiem
fan.
in front of...
I know she is
Fruza
an
Balk.
Inokian fan, from what I understand. But I was thinking about I thought we could have done like Liberesh or something.
Honestly, my dad told me, to stay away from Crowley, and then, that was hang up too.
Really?
And so when we got into the Second Order, part of the oath was not to do Crowley and magic, so I don't even know what you're making reference to right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Liberesh, yeah.
I'm just strictly traditional Golden Dawn.
Which is awesome,
I mean, I like it puts
love
me in an
Golden-
interesting position, because Thelemites are fascinated by that. They're like,
Mhm.
what?
Halima.
You don't know Crowley? You don't know this simple, quote that I'm making reference to? I'm like, oh. I've only known what people have made reference to, or what I've overheard, I've never
I
actually
saw
sat
pictures
down.
of them on my wall in the bedroom. I remember.
Nice. Yeah.
I remember that. Actually, I opened up my confessions book the other day, and I found roses from your mom's funeral pressed in the book.
I remember that. My grandma was freaked out because of all the witches singing weird things.
Oh man, yeah.
It was funny because I had to explain. I was like, "There's a temple in your house, Grandma," and
How's she doing?
Oh, she died years ago. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, in 2006. But I had to tell her that the temple was here and that it, and so I was telling her it's Rosicrucians, and she said, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Well, you know Martin Luther?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Well, it was something kind of secret he was doing on the side."
It was a night job.
Yeah, and she's like,
When he worked the
"Really?"
night shift.
So then I've got all these priests. The priests at Forest Lawn are reading the Amorc website, trying to find the connection with Martin Luther. To try to explain who all these people are
the Amorc
that are
website.
singing Wiccan songs.
That's so funny. By the way, another great thing that a lot of people don't realize, and I don't think even Bowie heads don't get this, but there's a song that he plays on Man Who Sold the World. It's called Width of the Circle. If you listen to the opening segment on guitar, it doesn't match the rest of the song. It turns into this rockin' song after. It goes down, 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 down. Then it goes down, down, down. Right. Well, that intro is it's Width of the Circle, which is a Wiccan song.
Oh,
We are a circle within a circle, all beginning, never ending.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and
I should
he
look that up and play
completely
it.
put it in there.
Oh,
So listen to the
cool.
beginning of it, and you'll hear circle within a circle.
Nice.
And he called it Width of
Well,
the Circle.
I could even splice that in later. I'll do some sound effects.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Nice.
We are a circle within a circle, yeah.
Or all in all
Girl
is all
Crowley.
we are, as Kurt
Yeah.
Cobain said.
Yeah, exactly. All we are is all we are. And then, well, what is it? What does he say in Quicksand? He says, I'm closer to the Golden Dawn, dressed in Crowley's uniform of imagery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he is totally Totally into it, man. But that's really neat how he went with the Golden Dawn Crowley and not the OG.
Yeah. Well,
Before
it kind
the
of
peas
was
were
telling.
scattered.
He had read enough to know he
Yeah.
was reading Fortune and Waite and a few other people
Yeah.
besides Crowley, so he had a sense of the context, but he definitely related with Crowley because he was the one that was bisexual and on drugs. I mean, duh.
Yeah.
You know?
I can connect to that. Hey, Iggy, what are you doing later? What are you doing, Iggy? No.
It's like, no, I prefer Yeats.
Hey, Nick.
I like his poetry.
Yeah, exactly. My God. Fucking Bowie. He's so fucking hot.
Yeah.
He's so hot. He's so fucking hot. Awesome stuff, man.
Well,
Awesome
thank you
stuff.
for joining us on the Esoterinerd podcast.
Thank you for bringing me
Absolutely.
here. This was an amazing chance to come full circle.
Yeah.
Pulling into the driveway was amazing,
Nice.
and seeing it, and then I backed out, parked on the street. But I was looking for the white BMW. I remember
Oh yeah.
your mother let me take the BMW, and I was learning to drive stick, and I was coming up Townsend, and I couldn't get the car to go up the hill because I couldn't get it into it. It kept going. She had to come over, and you guys had that Isuzu Trooper or something.
Yeah.
And she had to come down and get the car up the hill for me. Oh my God! And you know another thing that still haunts me that I feel really bad that I did, and it was me being a spaz, not being reckless, but it was reckless. Does it still look like? Can you see where the dartboard was out on the front porch, throwing the darts?
Oh.
And it went tick, tick, tick,
Oh.
tick, tick. No,
On this.
out on the front porch.
Oh,
the
no.
stone porch.
Oh.
Like when you go out the front door to the left, there's little holes where I was throwing darts.
That's funny.
Yeah.
There's some on the other side of that door, but
Really? I
Yeah,
wonder what
yeah.
those were. I had tinfoil on the walls, on the windows.
Yeah.
And, oh my God.
What the room that is now the LA Sanctuary was what?
Was my
Your-
den of iniquity.
Your first dungeon?
Yeah.
Yeah. The exact same room, which
Oh my God.
which had previously been my great grandmother's room, where she secretly smoked a corncob pipe back in the teens,
So crazy.
like the teens of the previous century. I mean.
And I used to crawl around and go up in the attic in front with the blue glass
Oh wow.
and get the pigeon eggs out of the nest.
Oh my
and use them
God.
for ritual. All right. Well, I'm sure I got a fiance that's freaking out because I'm not responding to her.
Oh, God.
So I should go.
Okay, well, you'll have an alibi when this goes up online,
Yeah.
and thank you very much, and we'll talk
Thank
to
you, at
soon.
770. Much love to you.
770. Thank you, Sal, for joining us on the Esoterinerd podcast tonight. Thank you to the monks on Mount Koyasan. Thank you to Brian Dahl. And to Jonathan Goldman. And to you, the Esoterinerd listening to this podcast. If you have nothing to do, maybe you're looking for something to distract yourself from the really boring thing that you're working on. Maybe log into iTunes and search VH Frater BT's Esoterinerd podcast. Maybe leave a review. I look forward to reading it. Thank you as always for tuning in. Good night.